Hello.
Hello.
This is this week's podcast we're doing. We've got some new equipment today. It's been a bit more of a kerfuffle to set up, but hopefully it should sound better and be easier for future episodes. So, how have you been?
I've been alright.
Awesome. I thought this week we'll talk about our favourite song or songs that feel very important to us. So I think last week we talked more about gigs and things like that.
Yeah.
So this week we thought about songs particularly. You got any songs that you really love?
Oh, where do I start? Well, actually, strangely enough, I have been watching a digital channel called Magic, where it's got all the 90s
it's all
stuff.
the, like smooth jazz and stuff and that.
Yeah, but it's all got a lot of 90s stuff on there, and I've been watching some of the videos and stuff, and that takes me back a bit. Because obviously it's quite a while ago since I actually watched them. I know Take That have been played a lot this week.
I remember that.
So I've seen a lot of Take That.
Yeah, I remember at Magic when it was just a radio station. It was usually, I always listened to it. It was very, very late at night. It was always smooth jazz and.
Well, a lot of them were radio stations, and they've now become sort of video channels. So, I think it's just an extension of what you
Kerrang
hear
was
on.
That back in the day when I first listened to Kerrang.
Yeah, I remember that.
People always said, "Oh, you watch Kerrang?" Like, no, I always listened to it. It was good back in the day.
Yeah.
As soon as it went on TV, it was rubbish.
Yeah, I remember.
Back in the day when it was just from Birmingham on the road. That's when it was good. But Kerrang recently has gone. Nothing's been good on Kerrang. When they started playing Eminem on Kerrang, I was like, I'm out. I'm finished with the station. I've had enough. Not to say Eminem's bad. It's just it's not Kerrang, you know.
Yeah, I know what you mean, man.
So yeah, any particular songs then?
Well, I saw Prey. Especially with Take That having all their shirts off, so that was quite interesting. They played. I'm trying to remember. Relight My Fire was played.
The old Take That songs.
Not the new stuff. No, this was all really 90s Take That stuff. Pray, Relight My Fire. Could It Be Magic? All that sort of stuff. I think everybody's quite familiar with Take That songs.
One thing I've discovered in the last few weeks is Spotify.
All right.
Yeah, because usually I'm quite a bit of a technophobe. But,
I know you are.
But the other week, I've heard a lot about it. I've heard about it for a year or so. It's not new to me, but I thought I'd give it a go. Free music, any music you want. And honestly, it's the best thing I've ever been on, seriously. I think what's great about it is you've got this thing where you're not limited to what music you can listen to. Music normally, most of the time, you're either limited to what you hear on the radio. I like that song, I'll pick it up in the shops. Or what friends tell you, or bands you already know. So really, before starting using it, the only music you're really limited to is word of mouth, radio and stuff. And I thought I had quite a wide taste in music. I now have such a more broader taste in music than I did before. Because if there's a band I want to listen to, I don't have to buy anything, I don't have to shell out any money. It's literally just click it, listen to it. And no guilt either, because it's not piracy. It's all legal, so it's...
All legal, yeah.
Honestly, it's like opened my eyes to a whole new world of music.
Yeah.
It really has.
Well, we're learning all new things all the time, aren't we? With this technology we've got. We're all learning, what we can do, in terms of, and how we apply it to music as well. So.
Oh, definitely. I think.
And also how we listen to it now, obviously, and how we generate it.
I certainly think the music industry is stronger than it's ever been. And I know there's gonna people out there who's gonna disagree with me, but I think when I say that, I think it's the old system of music people are upset that's being lost, because the old system of record labels, the old system of being sort of spotted and becoming big that way, it's not around anymore, and I think people are upset by that. A lot of old bands are refusing to be on Spotify on the basis that it's not the old system of music. But for smaller bands haven't been listened to before, haven't been picked up. I think the digital age is sort of becoming sort of amazing to them, because anyone in their bedroom like us can literally just download some mixing software, get a guitar, mix around, and you don't have to go trawling to every pub, every club in the county until someone spots you. It's out there. People can listen to your music straight away, and I think that's the way music's going nowadays, and I think
Yeah.
it's only going to be better and better things from here on in.
Yeah, that's very true what you're saying there, because I've heard a lot of stories about how the new bands have come about, and it is mainly through the internet and what they do. They jam in their bedroom, they get their pieces together, and then they then shift it onto the net, and then everybody just kind of like sort of listens to it and think, oh.
Anyway, what were you going to say? We had a bit of a technical issue.
We may get more of those. Yeah, as I was saying about, how a lot of the new bands today get discovered is through this process of jamming in their bedrooms, doing what they do, and then sort of their music they then promote and put on the internet. And,
yeah, I think the main difference is they haven't got, for good and for bad, haven't got the filter of record labels so much anymore. No. And they haven't got the fact that they have to have it approved by someone. I think that's why music, I think, nowadays is so much broader. There's so many more genres we listen to.
Yeah.
And you think something about 20, 10, 30 years or so. Music was either there was a genre that was fashionable and the one that wasn't, and it was one after another after the other. And whereas today, I think it's much more broader than anyone who wants to listen to prog rock nowadays. There's bands out there you can find. Record labels aren't choosing prog rock bands, but they're there and they're available online. There isn't that sort of cultural filter anymore.
No.
There's that sort of immediacy, so anyone who likes any genre can find a modern band of one artist playing at the moment.
Yeah.
And it's still it's out there. It's not, they don't have to go back 20, 30 years to find old bands. New bands are coming out with new stuff. So
yeah,
I think that's one of the great things about sort of the digital age in many ways.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, unlike a lot of bands, they did have to do it the hard way, having to travel up and down the country, playing in all sorts of different.
I've been to a few of those places that you.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it must have been so much tougher for them in the old days to have to do that, because I bet they got tired traveling and going from place to place. It must have been very, very difficult to do.
It's very it's also that sort of, you have to put in so much more to get relatively little out, because you don't know whether your popularity's growing or not, because you're going different people every week, different nights. I mean, the place I went to at uni, we've never seen the bands before. They've been touring all around the country, and we never heard of them. They just come to our city, played, and they moved on again. And I think with the internet and with sort of social media, you can follow a band much more precisely, even if a band with a very small fan base.
Yeah.
You can pinpoint where it's going, where it's been, rather than sort of listening to them in a old pub somewhere, and then finding out 6 months later they've been signed or whatever.
Yeah.
Now it's a case of, if you like them, go straight online. Like I did, I can't remember what it's called now. They're really good. Like I picked them up at uni, and you just type their name into Google and they come up, and you can listen to the stuff, find out where they're going, and it's like that. While they still go on tour, bands still go on tour to different like colleges, and universities like mine.
And the internet makes it so much more accessible as well for them to, find the band they want and listen to their music and everything. So I think that's why a lot of bands do that as well, because it makes it much more accessible for people who do like what they're listening to. They can just click on Google and just, take it from there, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what the idea of this, where I was originally going with this idea is favourite tracks. I've now discovered new bands, new albums on the internet that I really like, and one of the new ones I've recently listened to is Cage the Elephant. I don't know if you've heard of that band.
No, I haven't.
No, they were really big, obviously back in the 90s. They had one major hit, No Rest for the Wicked. You heard of that?
Yeah, I've heard of that.
That song, I never knew it was them, and that's kind of what I've discovered. What I like about the internet. If I heard that on the radio, I love the song, I like the song, but I never really listened to what band they say on, because I only once they playing the song.
I only ever heard that song. I think.
So that's the thing with Spotify. I listen to it, I track down the band, listen to the rest of their stuff. I've listened to it virtually every. I think they've released now, and Yeah, I love the band. And I think I wouldn't have had that knowledge and that newfound appreciation for a band I haven't heard of before, or heard of and never really recognised or listened to before. Wouldn't be around because of the internet and music streaming, which I've now discovered.
I always do it the old-fashioned way. It's like if you sort of, I'll tell you the story. When I was kind of around the store Head. Well, it wasn't called Head. It was actually called the Music, Film and Bookshop then.
Was it? It was FOP for a while.
It was, but then it changed from that to Music, Film and Books.
Yeah.
And then now it's Head. But they then moved somewhere else or across from there, so they've gone through this change. But I remember distinctly when I was looking around one day, and Adele's album was on at the time, because they know how they play albums in shops to promote.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't long out, and I heard this one song that really caught my attention, and it was called "Set Fire to the Rain." But I was listening to it in the shop, and I thought, that's a wicked song, that. Really, really good. You know, I just felt like I was kind of...
Adele?
Yeah.
Good. Adele's...
That song was really good,
Adele,
honestly.
The thing about Adele is that she's very, very overrated.
Maybe in some respects, I'll agree.
I think she's an alright singer, but she's not as good as everyone's making out of her to be.
No, I think the reason for her success is that her music kind of keeps it real.
I think her reason for her success is that she keeps the music very what's the phrase? She overplays the emotion on it. In that
that's what people like.
She's just kind of playing to that idea that she's singing about everyone. It's kind of so general, anyone can think it's about them.
Well, actually, to be fair, it's not. I mean, when she wrote the songs, it was actually about her. It was actually about her breakup with somebody who she was with at the time. That's what most of her material on the album was based on, actually.
Exactly,
but it relates to everybody, though. That's
that's the thing. That's the idea. The idea of a breakup and the idea of being unhappy afterwards is something everyone's experienced and everyone
so that's why
has
she
understood.
Put that on.
But I think it's overrated in the fact that people are reading not too much into it. Well, yeah, too much into it. But the fact I think this is a genius, this is amazing. When in fact she's just singing about something singers and songwriters have been singing about since music began. And I think the reason I don't like Adele so much, I think that she's just playing on those emotions. She's playing on the ideas that people are always over emotional. She's trying to deliberately attack that part of our brain that associates to that to sell records. That's my opinion on Adele, anyway.
Well, I mean, I can appreciate that point of view, but I mean, I think also for the reason her success is because of the music scene in general. I mean, the music today, you know, is basically hip hop, R&B, dance related. It's all the time.
It's not so much anymore. I agree. Like 5 years ago, it was a lot of hip hop, R&B, dance. Nowadays, it's very much mainstream pop. I think mainstream pop has come back in a big way in the last few years. I don't think necessarily it's all R&B anymore. In fact, in many ways, I would prefer if it was, but it's not. It's all people like Lady Gaga, or you got One Direction, the new sort of boy bands that are emerging.
Yeah, but they're still doing more or less
the mainstream
the same
stuff
sort of music, though. So it's not, you know, you can't really tell the difference.
I would disagree. I would say mainstream music is coming more and more mainstream, more and more that kind of perfect idea of mainstream music. I think in many ways, again, also back to the internet idea, is that alternative music is growing exponentially in this great sort of flourish in different genres. I think mainstream music and the traditional forms of music are becoming more and more condensed, more and more sort of concentrated to this idea of manufactured pop. I think that's what mainstream music is at the moment. You've got a lot of artists out there which are all virtually identical in many ways, I think. I know you might disagree with me, but that's the way I feel.
Well, they're all virtually identical, and I think the music, unfortunately, because of all this intermingling of music, they can do R&B with dance, they can mix hip hop with dance, but it all amounts to the same thing, and you just end up hearing the same thing every single time, but just in different ways and by different people.
I don't.
So there's no real authenticity. And I believe that's why Adele's music kind of provoked people's emotions in that way, because it was also using real instruments and real real music, real live sounds.
I don't think it's
I think that's
real
why
music in the way you're thinking it's real music.
There is a difference in real music in the way that you play it and the way you express it.
I think there's a critical difference in the music Adele plays. I'm not just picking Adele here. I'm picking on all sorts. I'm speaking about all sorts of mainstream music at the moment. If you look at the sort of top charts, they're just awful. but I'm talking like it's music. Sure, they're using real instruments and stuff, but they're using it in a very refined way. And I think I don't know. I think more mainstream music's over refined, and that's why I do sort of go down the internet route, the local pub routes, the amateur stuff routes, because I think the best music is really sort of rough, not very good. I think a bad singer makes a band better in a way, if that makes any sense. Someone who isn't necessarily trained from a young age or hasn't got a very natural talent, but is sort of stuck at it with sort of a determination and has a reason to sing rather than just being talented. I think that's more important in a singer than pure talent, pure charisma alone. I think just having something to sing about, and that's what I think from a lot of singers around at the moment. And sort of the mainstream idea is that they're talented, yes, incredibly talented. They can hold a note perfectly, any note they want, sing beautifully, but they haven't got anything really worth saying.
Well, not a lot of the stars, in my opinion, have got that great a vocal talent anyway. But for some who potentially could be better, it's really frustrating. It's like when I listen to Rihanna sometimes, the way she sings, you just think to yourself, she could sing better than that. She could be really good vocally, but she doesn't really. It's not really her big concern, I don't think.
That's one thing people said a lot about Lady Gaga when she first came out. She's an amazing singer. If you listen to a lot of her stuff before she got big, amazing. There's almost, I would say there's no other singer around like her, but the thing is, once she got mainstream, once she got sort of put through the mill, she became very sort of melod. I think the thing with pop music is that the melody is very simple. So people can sing along, people can identify with it, people can sing it back.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
I think Lady Gaga before she got famous had an amazing voice, almost too good, because people couldn't latch onto that melody, which they can with a very oversimplified, very basic pop song.
Yeah.
I think that's why pop is popular. I say why that's pop's in sort of public eye so much, because not necessarily because it's very good or very complex as a piece of music, but because it's very easily identifiable. Sort of a repetitive chorus is going to get stuck in your head. Let's face it.
I agree. Yeah.
So that's why.
I agree with that. Yeah.
That's why people when refer to sort of bad mainstream music at the moment. It's the idea of very repetitive ideas, and that's back to this idea of the manufactured and refinedness. That they want to get it into your head. They want to get it into you singing it. By doing that, they have very repetitive lyrics, very simple melodies. And that's basically why mainstream music's popular, because it gets in your head in the first song rather than having to listen to it over and over again.
Yeah.
Anyway, you got that's my 2 cents on mainstream pop.
Well, I mean, mainstream. I mean, you can define it any real way what mainstream's supposed to be. I mean, what mainstream mainly means is that what's current.
Yeah, well, mainstream.
And what's around.
When I talk about mainstream, I talk about the top 20 in the chart. I talk about the artists that can play constantly on the radio. Mainstream, well, is what I refer to. What's popular. There's lots of different music. I don't refer to current music. Current music and mainstream music are 2 very different things, and I think people should remember that.
Yeah.
Is that a lot of damn good talented people out there at the moment. Just the mainstream is very different from the talent we've got. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do. That's what I liked about my music when I was growing up listening to it, was that it wasn't so repetitious and so, mechanical.
Well, I think
I liked that there was more spontaneity.
I think sort of
in music. than there is now.
Mm.
I like that there was, and I like that the songs were somewhat harder to learn in that respect, because they were, in my day when I used to listen to it. And now when I sort of hum along to something, I know it instantly, and I know it by heart, and it's too easy. It's too, you know, it's too easy game, really. And I like something with a bit more of a challenge to listen to, and to really listen to it as well. The emotion behind it, I don't like to listen to music that's just mechanical and repetitious all the time.
Mm.
And that's also another problem with today's music, is that it's just constantly drilling out the same sort of thing constantly, and you just get sick.
Well, I don't think
it's
right to bang on modern music as compared to old music. I think that argument's been going on pretty much since sort of popular music began. There's always been good and bad in every generation, every genre.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think say all modern music isn't good is wrong.
I'm not going to say that. I'm not saying it isn't. I'm not saying that it's all bad. I mean, there are some songs that I really like, but I'm just saying that the way they used to do it back when I was a kid, and then what I've been listening to, as you grow up, and then to what it is now, I just think that maybe they need to be a bit more imaginative in how they do songs now.
Yeah, but imaginative songs don't sell. And that's the bottom line. Songs that take a while to get used to, songs that take a while to like, don't sell. That's why they don't make them, and that's why we're stuck with the music we have.
Yeah, and it sounds very business-like and very
sort
of when you put it like that.
It is.
And
it is
like
sort
of
that. The pop industry, the mainstream music industry, is a business. It's there to make money.
Well, I don't really like that personally. I think, it did just fine when I was growing up with it. I mean, even some music, I've listened to is quite dorky, but it's actually quite refreshing to listen to that sort of different sort of music. And you got like different sorts of everything. It's like when you listen to The Beautiful South. They don't do the same sort of song all the time. They do like different sort of songs all, a lot of it's folksy stuff, but they still make it reasonably good to listen to. And it's, we had all sorts of different people. We had the Cause. I actually liked them, to be fair. I thought they were quite good. But I just think that, and a lot of people used to play instruments a lot more. We used to hear like the real music, real authentic sounds, and we don't hear that anymore. It just feels like it's just all gone down the drain.
Well,
somewhere.
I think to play devil's advocate again, I don't think musicians are necessarily dying out. I think there are still people out there who play music and play real instruments.
Oh, I should hope so.
Because there has been sort of that pop idea has been gone back since the 60s. Yeah, there was the idea like the Monkees, really old, back in the day. They didn't write their own songs, and that was a really big thing back then. I think nowadays there've always been pop artists since like the boy bands, the girl bands, the big names things. They don't write the music, they just sing the lyrics. And I think the idea that that's what all modern music is, it's not right. There are musicians out there, there are good musicians out there. I just think
they're just not getting enough chances.
That's what we were talking about earlier with the idea of internet and social media, is the idea that they are getting chances. They're just not getting chances on the radio. They're not getting chances on TV, but they are getting chances in a new way, and it's through through the internet. But
it's like they're operating in the dark as well in a lot of respects, because their music's not being heard, sort of generally.
Yeah.
They're kind of operating in the dark, and they're missing, that chance to put their sort of spin on the whole thing, spin on the whole.
No, what I generally believe
pop scene,
It's the idea. It's much the other way around. I think the radio, the TV, the sort of mainstream idea is actually in the dark. It's in the old days. People aren't listening to music in the same way. People aren't buying music in the same way. I think singles, people buying and selling singles, it's been going down for the last 15 odd years. It's been slowly declining.
Yeah.
To get a number one single nowadays, you don't need to get hardly anything compared to what you need to.
Yeah.
Something like 1% of the population has to buy your single to actually become a number one now.
Yeah.
And that's the way I think the music industry is in the dark about what people are actually listening to. I think they're in the dark about what's actually popular. So when we look at things like the single charts, we look at the music, TV, the music on the radios, it's not a true representation of what people are actually listening to.
No, it's not. No, it's funny. When you talked about Lady Gaga, I actually bought her album. I bought it from HMV for about £3. I just and I listened to it, and I have to say some of it's not her best work.
Which one's this? Which album's this?
Called Born This Way.
Oh, the more recent one.
Yeah, I have to say it's not.
I've heard a lot of
best
people
work.
say that's what people don't like. They don't like the more recent one.
I mean,
I've never been a Lady Gaga fan, but what I've heard from people who are, her newer one isn't the one people like.
No, because I listened to it all the way through, and I thought, this is not your best work, lady. It's really not. You know, obviously it's got some of the good ones. You know, Judas, Edge of Glory, and various other ones. And there's a brilliant remix of Born This Way on there, which that's my favourite track actually. but overall, her work is not. She's not turning over her best.
Well, I think sort of the hype of Lady Gaga's kind of over now.
Yeah.
She was really big 3-4 years ago, and I think that's just the way the music industry goes.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
People rise the quicker you rise, the quicker you fall, which is always the case. Bands that come out of virtually, or rather, artists that come out of virtually nowhere, and make out like one after the other number one hits.
Yeah.
They're gone in 2-3 years. Quite often found.
Yeah, it's kind of generally up and down. And a lot of these bands are popular, but then some of their songs don't connect so well with audiences as as others do. Florence and the Machine is a good example. Some of their songs turn out actually their new stuff's doing much better than their old stuff. If I'm being honest. But
I like Florence and the Machine. They're quite good.
Oh no, yeah, I like them too. And obviously their new stuff's doing much better than their old stuff. But obviously I come across some of their songs through my various compilations. So I thought, oh, this sounds good. You're quite good. and then like it's just in positioning. You got one song that's at like number. I think the first one I heard was at number 15, and then there was another that was So it's various positions with different artists. Certain songs, it just varies. It doesn't always sort of necessarily connect with people. And then you have like some of them that just end up at number one all of a sudden.
Quite often albums, you only get one or two songs that become hits in many ways.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I tend to buy albums more than individual songs.
Yeah.
It's the fact that quite often on music and stuff that it's only usually like track 4 or whatever, or it's usually track 4. It makes a big single, and you hear it and everyone knows. It's that's why the reason I tend to buy albums is the fact that I want to listen to the other songs, the ones that haven't necessarily made it that popular or that sort of well known. And quite often I found some artists I like the ones which aren't very well known, ones that people don't instantly recognise. And quite often they're my favourite song by that artist.
Yeah.
That's why I think albums are still in some way important, because you want a full breadth of the artist, the band's ideas and music. I think it's important to get listen to those little tracks, those little ones people never necessarily heard of.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
Well, the podcast still hasn't got a name.
Well, what name do you think we should have?
I've completely blanked on the name. I have no idea what to call it. I had one a few weeks ago, but I have no idea. So, any ideas since we last discussed this issue?
Oh, I don't know. I don't think there's any point asking me, actually. I think when it comes to names and whatnot, I just think I'm not very good at it.
Well, the working title at the moment is also available on Terrovision, which is a part of the blog I do.
Might as well just call it that.
I could keep calling it that, but I kind of want a separate name for this. This is kind of a separate thing to it. So if anyone's got an idea for the name, you can always put it in the comments. Feel free to input your ideas. I still haven't thought of a.
Oh, don't go down that road.
It'll be interesting to see what people think. It'll be interesting.
Oh, we're always interested in people's ideas, what they may come up with.
So I still haven't got what your favourite song is then. We've been beating around this bush. Well, that's the better part of how long now?
I've got loads though. I mean, I'd have if I was to pick one, I'd probably say ABBA, one of ABBA's songs.
Which one of ABBA's songs though? And why? I want to know why as well. It's no good just saying a track and you have to explain why, what it means to you.
Oh God, they've done so many great songs. I mean, I don't know.
Have they done that many great songs though?
Yeah.
You got Dancing Queen, that other one. It's about 3 good ABBA songs. Well, 3 ones I know of.
There's loads of great ABBA songs. You just haven't listened to them. I mean, it's really great. Oh, I don't know if I could pick. If I was to pick one, I would probably say, I think for sound is Knowing Me, Knowing You. I think that's a great track when you listen to it.
Why is that a track you love?
I don't know. It's just I mean the way it starts out, the sound of the guitars, and it just has these like really weird ambient sounds about it. That's just I don't know. It just kind of captures your imagination, and then obviously the girls singing. I mean, that really, the girls' singing voices are absolutely amazing.
Yeah, but if that was the only song you could ever listen to from now on, how quickly would you get sick of it?
Oh, I would probably get a little bit sick of it if I was listening to the same one.
That's the thing.
But as I say, I can't pick a definitive.
That's the
song.
thing about the favourite song argument. You have to think, if that's the only song I could ever listen to for the rest of my life.
Well,
would I get sick of it?
Well, yeah, you would.
Well, I think everyone would eventually of any song.
Everybody would get eventually sick of it.
But that's what I come into. There's lots of different categories why I like it: the instruments, the lyrics, the meaning.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But at the end of the day, when it comes down to how many times can I listen to a song before I want to vomit?
As I say, I've got loads of favourite songs from different pieces.
It's a difficult issue. It's just
every music has its beauty. I mean,
does it?
Yeah, it does. If you learn to appreciate it.
Thinking, I was looking at the top 20 the other day. Ever heard the song "Call Me Maybe"?
Oh my god!
Does that song has its own beauty? Does it? Is it beautiful in its own way?
Okay. It's just one of those poppy tracks.
It's the worst song ever made. Let's be honest.
I have to be honest. That's not the worst song that's been made ever. I have to be honest.
A cat screaming into a pipe would be better.
Have you ever heard of the Spice Girls' "Wannabe"? Now that is a song that would make you want to kill yourself if you heard it time and time and time again. And believe me, back in the old days when it was on the radio, it was #1 for about 4 or 5 weeks.
The thing about the Spice Girls is you can listen to that about 3 or 4 times before you say, right, never again.
But it was always on.
Call Me Maybe, I got about 30 seconds in, I'm like, right, I never want to listen to this song ever again. 30 seconds in, the first time I ever heard that song, I never want to listen to this song again. And it's #4 on the charts somehow. How the fuck is it #4 on the charts?
Well, trust me, if you listen to "Wannabe" time and time again, it would make you want to die. You just think, go away, don't want to listen to this no more.
I was working in the coffee shop today. The song came on the radio.
Oh,
I stopped immediately what I was doing, went out back, muted the radio, then came back and continued serving customers.
I know, it's just one of those songs you either love or hate, but because it was on all the time,
whoever loved
when it first came out, everybody would just, it was on like in shops. You go in the shops it used to be on, and you thought to yourself, I don't want to listen to this anymore. It's horrible. I don't want to listen to it. You can bear it for 2 weeks, but after that you just
No, I never really. I never got the Spice Girls personally. I thought, why are these people popular? what kind of world do we live in where this is considered to be sort of iconic music? That's the thing about the Spice Girls that really pissed me off about them. So they became caught on this idea of Britishness. Like they were all wearing Union Jacks and they were representing this country. Piss off! I don't want you to fucking represent this country. I mean, at the time they were out, there were so many other good bands around, and I'm like, why is this bunch of? Oh, Jesus Christ!
I think because the Spice Girls were the first real girl band to actually break through in terms of.
You can do that and still be a good band.
Yeah.
You don't have to make me hate you.
Well, I think that was the appeal for the Spice Girls, was that
Well, everyone hated them.
there were people who either loved them or hate them. I mean, it was just something different because we'd had Take That, we had Boyzone, but they only had like a brief reign before the Spice Girls came in.
The thing is, they weren't that different. Everyone says the Spice Girls are different. They broke the mold. They changed pop music. They didn't. It was done the same. It's just they weren't.
They made it possible for other girl bands to come through. That was the point. I mean, you got bloody bands like Girls Aloud, for instance, who I can't stand anyway.
And they wouldn't be around without the Spice Girls.
Exactly, yeah.
So therefore, we have to blame the Spice Girls for Girls Aloud.
Yeah, I agree with that. Because quite frankly, Girls Aloud were a load of crap. I mean, do you ever see like Pop Stars The Rivals?
No, I don't watch that stuff.
I mean, that was just atrocious. I mean, the only one that could really sing out of any of them was Nicola, actually. I thought she had a nice voice.
I don't know. Don't name the names to me.
Well,
I don't know.
Anyway, and then they brought out obviously Sound of the Underground and One True Voice. They brought out their song, which was completely atrocious. They had no chance against Girls Aloud. But Girls Aloud were just everything you were just going to hate about them because they couldn't sing. Couldn't really dance. They just like prance around in these like, costumes.
Girls Aloud are kind of everything you despise about pop music. It's a bunch of overdressed, sort of overtly sexual women who can't sing, can't really dance, but they look a bit pretty, and that's why they sell.
Yeah.
And that to me kind of sickens me a bit about
the
music industry. Is that we are going to listen to something because of the way something looks. And that defeats the entire object of music.
It does, doesn't it?
And that's why I hate that kind of idea of music. Because
their songs are atrocious and all.
It's just about, these women are quite pretty, I like to have sex with them, therefore they must be good musicians. No, they're not at all. Let's not get this confused.
No.
I mean, there's a very difference to someone looking attractive and someone who is talented. And that's, to me, that's sort of the antithesis of why I don't listen to pop music. That's why I don't listen to girl bands, because that's what.
Well, it's a fine line, isn't it?
It's not a fine line.
It is.
You don't have to be attractive in any way to be a good musician, and that's the true fact. And the sad fact is that's not the case in the music industry at the moment, or ever has, really, if you think about
it. Yeah. But it is drawing that fine line, I think, from separating who's talented and who's decent, and from people who've got no real talent whatsoever. And I think that these girls, I mean, bloody, I just can't stand the songs. The only one that had any real sort of thing was called The Promise. It was a song they did. That's relatively alright considering.
Well, I wouldn't know.
But apart from that, I wouldn't say their early stuff was horrible. I couldn't stand listening to that either.
Horrible.
I couldn't understand why they thought that they were so talented, and yet they're not. No. They got nothing. They're just, I mean. But you have to look at it. Cheryl Cole's a perfect example of this.
Cheryl Cole's a perfect example of style over substance. If there was a dictionary definition of style over substance, there's going to be a picture of Cheryl Cole right there next to the word.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I think she's definitely the epitome of the whole sort of, as you say, style over substance, and none of that really interests me. I think that you've got to have some sort of talent and some sort of musical ability to, that has to come first. Otherwise, everything else is just rubbish that goes with it. and I just don't, at least with McFly and Busted.
Yeah. Where are you going with this?
Well, they at least they played instruments and they actually sang.
They did to an extent. I don't think what McFly and Buster did could be called playing instruments.
Well, at least they did. As opposed to obviously the whole manufacturing.
I think that's kind of the big difference between boy bands and girl bands, and why I'm less anti boy band than I am anti girl band, because it's not necessarily about sex in the same way. With boy bands, it kind of is, but it isn't. Boy bands, it's all about.
It's because they're blokes and they can get away with it.
It's the ideas in a boy band. It's all about the ideas, the different personalities, the cute one, the crazy one, the mysterious one. With a girl band, it's all about who has the different sized tits in them. And it's in many ways, it's the same idea repackaged, except it's appealing to female rather than men. With the idea of the girl band, your idea appealing to the male idea of what's attractive. With the boy band, you're appealing to the female idea of what's attractive. With the different personality types and the different kind of attitudes, and it's the same problem. I don't think it's worth wasting time seeing whether boy bands and girl bands are better. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's just appealing to the different genders. So in many ways, they're just as bad as each other. I don't think we can distinct something like Boyzone from Girls Aloud, for example.
Yeah, I agree. Boyzone, I felt a bit sorry for them actually, because they did sort of slowly come up in the ranks in the old days. Mainly because I watched a lot of Smash Hits back then. Smash Hits was like the big major awards thingy back then, and they slowly came up in the ranks, and there were a lot of girls out there that liked them, to be fair. And they kind of paved the way for bloody Westlife to be brought into the fold, which I hate, by the way. I hate Westlife. They're everything about a boy band that you're going to hate if you hadn't been around to sort of take that era. But they were alright, and they had like a brief reign, where they were actually at the top, and then the Spice Girls just came along and just blew them out of the water, and it just didn't. I felt a bit sorry for them, really, that they never got that chance.
And I think on that note we should finish.
Yeah.
We've been going on far too long. We were meant to be talking about songs we loved and songs we liked. Instead, we spent the entire time hating on the music industry and boy bands. So I apologise.
Sorry, my fault.
Goodbye.
Bye bye.